Hello everyone. Welcome to Science and Tech series with Dr. Vivek Rana. Hope all of you are doing well. So topic for today's discussion is from space section, one of the most quintessential section which is asked in UPSC prelims as well as mains examination. Even this year we had one question from prelims which was based on similar theme. So we'll be decoding what are the five key challenges currently being faced by Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System, which is commonly known as IRNSS or NavIC. NavIC is an acronym which stands for Navigation with Indian Constellation. So India always wanted an indigenized version of, you could say, the GPS, because we have seen during Kargil war that at critical point the GPS services were denied to Indian forces. So in that backdrop, India wanted indigenization of navigation technology, and that's how the IRNS system came into picture. So originally, this mission envisioned developing 7 satellites to achieve this objective of having an Indianized version of navigation system, and we sent those light satellites with the help of PSLV missions. So there are 7 active satellites which cater to the need of navigation services, but the limitation was that they covered only Indian, you could say India as well and 1500-kilometer radius. So that basically that made it only a regional navigation system. That's why they have clearly mentioned as IRNS acronym as well. Whereas if we compare it with the global navigation systems like GPS, GLONASS or China's Baidu, they are the, you could say, global positioning systems which have the global coverage, because number of satellites being used for global coverage are at least minimal are 24, but currently all of them have expanded to over 30. So in that context, we can say that even though we have indigenized the technology of navigation, but still we have scope of improvement, or you could say the scope of expansion to further the cause of the navigation satellites. And the ground station for the IRNSS is in Bailuru near Bangalore, which happens to be the ISRO, you could say, the headquarters as well. Now, why we are taking up this topic in the given segment is because recently the second league, or you could say the second generation of NavIC satellites would be placed in the same geo synchronous or stationary orbits, because the original 7 satellites which were placed, if we go into that breakup, 3 were placed in geostationary orbit and 4 were in geosynchronous orbit. We cover these types of orbit and launch vehicles in our basic lecture. So in case you have not covered it to that thing, let me just refresh your memory that geosynchronous is a specific orbit in which satellites are placed at an altitude of 35,786 kilometers. And this is a point where communication becomes quite an easy, it's a sweet spot in which communication becomes quite handy. So that's why we placed our satellites of navigation in that orbit. So currently, recently, the second generation of satellite, you could say the navigation satellite 01 has been placed, and it's quite a heavy satellite. And the main achievement is that we have used the rubidium atomic clock, which has been developed indigenously this time. So more satellites are in pipeline because India plans to expand this program from 7 to 11 satellites for the time being. Eventually, we will still fall short of the global coverage, which ideally any country should aim at. But India, being a developing country, developing an indigenized version of navigation system was always an achievement, because we have our strategic geopolitical goals in which the defense sector, it's always better to have one's own navigation system. Now, in this lecture, we will be just focusing on the 5 key challenges which IRNSS has faced so far and how it has tried to address them. Because the question might come in mains that critically evaluate the, you could say, significance of developing an own regional navigation satellite system, or what are the hurdles being faced by IRNSS, or a basic comparison between a GPS or Chinese variant. So we have seen that Russian system is known as GLONASS, Japanese is quasi-Zenit, China is Baidu, or US is the global positioning services. So you should have a fair bit idea that most of the satellite systems currently are global, whereas our system is mainly regional one. So first major challenge which we have to address is related to coverage. For strategic purpose, it was quite handy that we have developed our own navigation system. But if we look at the global perspective, we will have to sort out a strategy where there is at least integration with some global navigation system, or we work and developing at least 20 odd satellites which can help a global coverage. So currently, the biggest challenge which is being faced by our navigation system is about the coverage. So step by step, to progressive space reforms, we can aim at expanding our program to global coverage. The second roadblock was atomic clock. We have seen that initially when those 7 satellites were placed in orbit, one of the satellite had failure due to atomic clock failure, and then the services get affected. So we sent a substitute satellite which also had that heat shield issue and could not be placed rightly. So that's why the precision challenges at times arise when these atomic clocks do not function. But the positive news is that the current mission of the NavIC has successfully placed the indigenized version of rubidium clock, and so we are in fray to develop more such things to improve our precision level. Even though in terms of precision, our Indian regional navigation satellite system matches the best of the best, so precision does not is not a big hurdle, because we have to balance privacy and security concerns. So we can give a clean sheet currently that our precision is up to the mark, where if we consider it to the regional system of India and 1500-kilometer radius. Now, the problem with the satellites is, which almost all satellites faced, it that they have limited lifespan. Generally, a conventional satellite functions up to 10 years or up to max 15 years. So since this mission has been functional, now most of the satellites which were active now are reaching at the maturity level, and they may not work for long. So currently, that's the precise reason why the second generation of NavIC satellites, which will are more better than the first one, are being placed, and we are working on expansion. So this is a natural progression step. So only limitation is that we have to be a little more proactive in this part, even though ISRO has worked wonders in our space sector. So this is an urgent priority to make a gradual, or you could say the to progression to the new ones, as well as expanding the system to the optic. So the satellite replacement is another challenge which being faced. We will need sufficient funds to address this, and we have some major missions pipeline right from Gaganyaan or Aditya L1. So we have to balance our priorities to match the application orientation as well as the exploration, which remains a key, you could say, endeavor for any space agency. Apart from that, one major hurdle which we have seen in the IRNSS journey is integration with mobile phones, or in simple terms, compatibility. Because currently the phones which you are using is providing GPS services. There is not been an urgent push, or you could say the transition to the Indian regional navigation system, which should have been the effect of once we had mastered this technology. So there are some bottlenecks which need to be addressed. We need to upgrade our technology so that almost all handsets should have a feature in which there should be at least an option that if we want to use this our own system or rely on the more smoother version which we are currently using. So even though the transition would be a little would be difficult to common users, but this is the way forward in longer run. Instead of relying on some foreign institution for all basic services, it's always better if you have developed your own system. The compatibility issue should be addressed on priority, so that more and more users can use the Indian version in long term. And finally, creating security and encryption challenges, which almost all navigation satellites face, remains a challenge, because we have seen that the next level of warfare could be fought in space sector. Currently, the cyber warfare phase is on. We see that institutions, they do not hesitate to use the cyber domain for nefarious purposes. Similar way, the next level of warfare could be the space warfare, in which you just attack, or you could say hack satellite system, and an internet blackout or communication lag can be, you could say, quite disastrous for the opposing state, and wars could be fought even without firing a single missile. So we have to be ready for it, and unless we safeguard, or you could say upgrade or ensure that the security encryption remains up to the best of the challenges, we cannot have a sign of relief that we have mastered, or you could say captured the technology in whole assets. So these are the five of the basic challenges which any navigation system faces. India is no exception. So we can say, if they ask what are the basic hurdles or the gray areas in developing navigation systems, your answer could revolve around the coverage aspects, the atomic clock, the technological upgradations, the satellite replacement timely in a gradual way, compatibility with handset should be addressed on the first basis, and finally there should be a constant evolution in security and encryption, you could say softwares, so that we remain in the race as a major space power. Even though India did a bold step of conducting the ASAT satellite, which is popularly known as Mission Shakti, so we have in our arsenal all the tools which are required to safeguard our assets in case of exigencies, but still we should not be complacent in matters of space sector, because it has emerged a major tool in empowering our nation through its socio-economic applications. So navigation is just one of the applications through which space is delivering and changing lives of common men. We have seen that how in case of hikers, travelers, the navigation, it has been quite a handy tool. Even in case of the basic drivers who are operating in these cab services are relying on GPS to reach destination in shortest possible tool. And flexibility of our system to operate at terrestrial, aerial and marine navigation has been a boon for multiple sectors as well. So we can say that currently we live in a tech era where navigation has emerged as a basic tool for easing lives of common men. And similar way, the communication as well as remote sensing services provided by our space sector has been boon for men. So I hope you got a fair overview of what IRNS system is facing challenges from current perspective. And if you come across any article which highlights some more sides of the story, you should upgrade your notes with that. So I hope this session was useful in some way. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.